Hey guys, I am here, and this is a special edition of Morning Jen. I'm going to call it Weekend Jen. If you like it, I will try to be back every Saturday at 4 p.m. Please let me know in the chat whether you can hear me okay. Sometimes I'm worried that I am muted. Anyway, so today on Weekend Jen, what I am offering you is a retrospective on the convention. And what I want to share with you in particular is the top 5 moments that I experienced last week. As you can see, I have a new skyline. I am no longer in Chicago. I am in Detroit, or the Detroit metro area. So thank you for traveling with me here. So for me, I think I could categorize the top 5 moments of last week's Democratic convention sort of along the lines, guys, of what Nancy Pelosi talks about in a successful campaign, plus a couple others. Nancy Pelosi, the emeritus Speaker of the House, says to have a successful campaign, you need to mobilize the base and beyond. You need an excellent message. And of course, you need to raise money. And so there are 3 things. Those are the 3 things: mobilization, the message, and the money. Top 3 things about the convention. I've got 2 more, and that is meeting people and how incredible it is to finally see people who you maybe know online or know in person, and finally in one place. It's kind of crazy that it's so efficient and so fun to meet people. And then, of course, finally, my 5th thing is Crazy Town, because this convention made Donald Trump absolutely nuts, and he is flailing. And so we have got some developments there. Okay, so let me begin. Hey, Lori, so great to see you. And by the way, I know there's a way to help people become moderators. So I will go into YouTube later. I can't do it from here when I'm in StreamYard, but I'll go on the YouTube comments. And if you're someone interested in being a moderator, I can add you in that role. Let me know. So again, welcome to Weekend Jen. This is a new time. You know, a Morning Jen is Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern. And I'm thinking of adding this at 4 p.m. on Saturdays so that we can kind of catch up on what's going on the weekend, so we don't store so much up for Mondays. But of course, I won't cheat you on Mondays. I'll make sure I cover what happened. So today's topic is the 5 top events at the DNC in Chicago. And because you know that I reported daily from the convention, if that's something, if you're new to the show and you missed that, please check that out every day last week, Monday through Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern, except one day when I accidentally messed things up because I was on a different time zone. Every day at 8 a.m. Eastern, you can find me live, but of course you could just go into the show and find these episodes of what happened each day at the convention. So again, when I talk about mobilization as one of the main things in a campaign, for me, the thing that I can say speaks to that is the moment Kamala Harris walked on stage. It was around it. I'm trying to think. Maybe it's hard for me to see because I was in Central Time Zone. So I think it was at, it's either 9:31 or 10:31 p.m., depending on what my file says. I'm pretty sure it must have been around 10:30. But anyway, You'll correct me. So let's listen to this. This is when she walks out on stage. And remember, I had that incredible view that I can show you right here to get a feel, because quite honestly, one of the things that made this convention amazing for me is even being able to go there, being able to get what are these things called credentials, which are those passes. You could not get into the building unless you had credentials. Some people had them as members of the press, or they were delegates, or they were, I'm going to show you this picture in a second. They were delegates, or they were, members of Congress, or the other thing think that you could have gotten them is if you, like in my case, know someone who knows somebody, or you were one of these people who applied for a social media pass. And because of the work that I do and the people that I know within the party, I was able to get access every day to the event and to the arena. And that felt incredible. But what was the most amazing thing was that on the last night, through some friends, I was able to be up in one of the boxes at the very top of the arena. And so when I show you the videos I'm showing you today, these are not things I saw on the news or saw posted on the Kamala Harris headquarters site. These are my own shots. And so before I get into those, again, my top 5 things, are the mobilization that happened at this convention, the message conveyed by Kamala Harris and the rest of the Democratic Party, including her VP pick, Tim Walz. And then, of course, we know about the money that was raised, which I will share with you in a moment. And then my 4th item was meeting people. And meeting people who I had never met before except online, seeing old friends, and then also new people who I just approached and said hello to. And that was kind of incredible. And the final thing, of course, my 5th favorite thing about the convention was Crazy Town. What made Donald Trump crazy. So let me share with you the view that I had on the last night of the convention on Thursday night. As I thought to myself at the time, it's like that line. And if you know The Sound of Music, if you're a fan of that musical, there's a thing where Maria says, somewhere in my youth or childhood, she sings this, I must have done something good. I am no Julie Andrews, so I will not sing that for you. But I think she was just so happy. And she said, somewhere in my youth and childhood, I must have done something good. Okay. And I felt that way last night. So let me show you what my view was. Actually, let me make that bigger for you. Yeah. This is my view from into the arena. I know this looks like a table, but in front of me is like plexiglass. This is like a ledge. We have these front row seats. I was sitting with Mary Trump, who's obviously the reason why we were there in this fantastic location. And you can see right in front of me is that sort of cube in the center of the arena. On all sides, you could see what was happening on stage. If you look carefully. Right past the Modelo and the seltzer water to the right of the screen, you can actually see the stage and the figure of who was speaking at the time we got there. Also, since I'm going to kind of do this a little bit backwards, in terms of people that I met, again, there's so many friends, and I'm not going to list them all. I want to make a list so I can remember for in the future of who I ran into. But so many people I've met in real life or only know online, and it was so great to catch up with them. Now, the arena holds around 20,000 people. So, of course, I don't know 20,000 people, but it was really fun to run into people several times. So what I did is on the last night, I'm sure you saw that, like me, a lot of people were wearing white. And they were wearing white. I think many delegates were planning to do that. And folks like me, because I think it was related to abortion rights, was what we were thinking. Okay, this is this great guy, Kenny. You might know him from the TikTok or Twitter handle, Too Raw, Too Real with the letter 2. He is a fast-talking, Biden supporting, and now Kamala Harris supporting Democrat influencer, or we call people creators now. And this is in one of the creators' lounges, which was really fun to go to. And no, I was not paid by the campaign to be there, and my ticket was not paid for by the campaign. And I know the New York Times disparaged the people in the creators' room because they claim reporters, paid their own way, that print journalists, is what they wrote in the Times, have real canons of ethics, and they're accusing creators of not having them, of this just being a product they were producing, and how they claiming they did not disclose their funding. All that's not entirely true. Some funding organizations require the creators they funded to disclose it. But also to say that the print journalism and television journalism, that they paid their own way, is ignoring the fact that they have paid advertisers, but whatever, let's just pretend that the New York Times is unbiased. Okay, and then this is a great picture of Maya Wiley. She ran in the Democratic primary for mayor of New York, and I think a lot of people would be happier if she had won that role instead of Eric Adams. Maya and I have only met each other online before. And we literally ran into each other 3 times. I think the second time we saw each other, I said, okay, Maya, let's just do the selfie. This is getting ridiculous. And it was really nice to see her. She is just incredibly kind and lovely in real life. So this is when I was in line outside of the perimeter of the venue. And I was starting to notice people wearing cool outfits. And I decided if I was going to actually take a photo of someone where you could see their face, I should say, hi, can I do this? And then people would say yes. And so these photos are ones that I put up on Twitter, and I would tag people when they asked me to tag them. So this was a woman wearing this fabulous outfit. She's an executive coach. And if you want to find out more about her, you can go to my Twitter page. And I loved what she was wearing, especially the lipstick, but the whole white outfit. She looked great. And then we did a picture together. Here's someone else who I met, and she works for Emily's List, amazing organization who supports women candidates for office. And I liked her outfit. I said hello, and she posed for me. This is a lady from Arkansas, and she is I think the chairman out of Arkansas. I think she lives in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and I guess she's a delegate, but the top female delegate. I guess they have a male leader and a female leader in Arkansas, and she was fabulous. She was not on Twitter, so I could not tag her there. And then this is one of my favorite people. She is someone, and I think I'm remembering she's from Georgia, and she was someone who was assaulted when she was trying to get access to, I think it was an era where there was voting or something like that. There's more to the story, but I loved everything about her white and patriotic outfit, especially those high silver boots. And of course, this is Zachary, who is ubiquitous. I have seen him everywhere I have gone recently, including, of course, the convention twice, and I saw him at the debates, and I adore him. He is fabulous. He was, I think, in human services and youth education before he got involved in all this kind of TikTok and social media and creator stuff for the Democratic, or supporting the Democratic Party. Okay, I am going to remove that. Okay, so you get the idea of what the situation was. And so, okay, I love meeting people. I mean, I should say, meeted so many members of the Michigan delegation. I was staying at the same hotel that they were, including meeting my own governor. I ran into Rick Wilson and Mike, who is a conservative, who is a never Trumper, as well as Michael Cohen, as well as a lot of other folks. But no more of that. You learned a little bit about that last week. So in terms of mobilization, I want you to see a moment. This is only part of the moment when there was like sustained applause for many minutes, I think at least 3 or 4 minutes, when Kamala Harris walked on stage. Let's play that. I'm removing that because it goes on and on and on. She finally, if you were watching on TV, kind of had to tell people, okay, enough, I need to talk. There was another incredible moment before Kamala, before she gets deeper into her speech, there was a moment when she accepted the nomination. And I want to make sure that I have that video file. Okay, let me grab that. Oops, I've got to get rid of a video. Somehow I just messed this up. So let me get rid of the one I'm sorry, it's hard to do this. You can only have 10 videos loaded. So let me just get the one I want to show you now. The moment she accepted the nomination. Okay, let's do this. Nation on earth. I accept. So, sorry, this is when she said, she winds up to the greatest nation on earth and said, I accept the nomination. And I cut off some of the applause there. The crowd went crazy. Now, before I get to what I loved in terms of the message, let me continue again about mobilization. Part of the mobilization involves having speakers among elected officials and union leaders from key states that are the battleground states, including my state here of Michigan. And one of my favorite things was seeing the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, come on stage, and Donald Trump has always insulted her. Now she begins, I want to make sure you can hear what she says at the beginning. Gretchen Whitmer begins by saying, in Lansing, they call me governor, because Lansing is the capital of Michigan. So listen to this carefully, and you'll see the energy that is coming from every state in the union, especially the swing states. Oh, I was talking at the debate backstage with one of the surrogates, Gavin Newsom, who is the governor of California. And, he said, without Michigan, we can't win. Now, Michigan is necessary but not sufficient. We need many more swing states, but Michigan for sure is a bellwether. So let's listen to Gretchen Whitmer, the governor. So she said, in Lansing, they call me governor. In Detroit, they call me Big Gretch. She is quite tall. Let's keep listening.
Donald Trump called me that woman from Michigan.
Okay, so she says, Donald Trump called me that woman from Michigan. Let's keep listening.
Insult. Being a woman from Michigan is a badge of honor.
Yeah, so she said, he called me that woman from Michigan, and she kind of, like it's an insult, and she kind of flicks her hands off. And then she said, being a woman from Michigan is a badge of honor. And what you don't hear, because I filmed this, I cut this off, I screamed, hell yes. But it was so loud, I thought you would be startled. Okay, so that was part of the mobilization. Now, again, another piece of the mobilization wasn't just bringing in elected officials and leaders like union leaders and others, and people, from non-government organizations, who are against gun violence and so on and so on and so on, but also bringing in Hollywood officials. Let me say Hollywood actors. And one of my favorites was Kerry Washington, who you must know in her role as Olivia Pope from Scandal. Great to see her on stage. And let me play you what she did to fire up the crowd. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit more before I get to the from mobilization into message. So that was just part of the action. The crowd was fired up. Now I want to add one more piece about mobilization and then get to the substantive messaging. What seemed really critical on the last night of the convention was something different than before. As you know, if you watched my show, Morning Jen, on Thursday morning, I spoke about how Project 2025 was the star of the show that night. And that was very much the case. That's part of the messaging. I can touch on that in a moment again. But what happened on Thursday night was different. What happened, what did someone just say? Can't say any of that was AI. Lori, you're right. That was not AI. I was there. Donald may say that, but it wasn't. So in terms of the piece about mobilization, I think someone understood that one of the challenges in terms of sort of expanding the tent, in terms of bringing more people in to support the Harris campaign, is that there's a lot of people who aren't used to seeing a president not being a white male. Yes, Barack Obama was an exception to that rule. And there are a lot of voters who are men, almost half. Men don't vote as often. And there are a lot of voters who are white, including women and men. And there are some who maybe look at Harris in an othering kind of way. She is different from me, is what people might think. And so what I saw a lot of that was really smart last night is people saying, literally the words, Kamala is us. They went through, she worked at McDonald's. Who else worked at a fast food restaurant? Kind of going through, she had a single mother, a lot of us did, trying to find the points of commonality and to expand the idea of what it means to be American and to say we are all Americans. And it was fantastic in that way. Now, let's get to the message. I already told you that some of the messaging had been around how bad what Donald Trump and the Republicans would bring to us in terms of Project 2025. And if you missed that again, please watch my show from Thursday morning, because that was a big focus of Wednesday night's event. And the best part of that, I think, was Kenan Thompson from Saturday Night Live. I have a segment of his presentation there where he used humor to bring home what this was about and what each of us might expect if and when someone like Donald Trump or any other Republican became president. Now, okay. So in terms of the message, as I mentioned, I think in my brief direct to camera from the hotel lobby, was it only yesterday morning? Yes, it was. I talked about how some of what Kamala Harris did on messaging was a part of her stump speech, things that we have heard before. But there were some new aspects of her acceptance speech last night that accomplished many things in terms of communicating her message. And one of them, messages exist on several levels. There's the actual literal word someone says that is their message. And then there is a sort of psychological subtext that you might not realize that they are conveying. And so I want to speak particularly to what Harris had to say about foreign policy. I'm going to share part of that. And what's important here is that one of the things that people have often been concerned about with allowing voting for a woman to be president is what would it look like for a woman to be commander in chief. And so it's a double-edged sword, so to speak, to use a weapon metaphor, in that people both think that a woman, again, this is a stereotype, people have thought over the years, some people, that women aren't strong enough, aren't tough enough to be a commander in chief and to make difficult decisions when it comes to life or death and war. And then at the same time, there are those who also worry that women would perceive that and overcompensate by being war hawks. And I think what Kamala Harris accomplished in the part of her acceptance speech around foreign policy is that she seemed direct, clear, and tough. And she conveyed that she had already worked diplomatically, and she'd already worked closely involving U.S. funding for war in terms of working and speaking with Vladimir Zelensky throughout this war that Russia waged against Ukraine. And then when she pivoted into a discussion right now of what's happening in Israel, including the terrorist attack on October 7th, as well as the current war in Gaza, she was able to speak clearly and with direct, unwavering support for Israel, as well as unwavering support for the lives of the Palestinian people and their political autonomy. And it was fantastic to hear. And so I want to play some of that for you. I think when you see this, and some of you may have already seen this, but I think that it for sure moved us. I think it was some of the biggest applause of the night. So I will share that with you. And if it gets too long, I will cut out and make a comment and then cut back into it. Okay, let's do this.
President Biden and I are working around the clock because now is the time to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal.
So she says, this is the part where she's saying, now is a time to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal. So I'm realizing that if you watch this on television, probably you were hearing her much louder than you were hearing the crowd because of the way they have it mic'd. And what I am showing you is what it sounded like in the arena. I could hear what she was saying, but it was, as you can note, I'm sure it's a little bit hard for you to hear. And yes, I see someone Portable Doc saying that Donald Trump called Netanyahu to tell him to not do a ceasefire. And I know that to not agree to a ceasefire. And I know that a lot of you may have heard people complain that this is a violation of the Logan Act. I dealt with this a little while ago in an Ask Me Anything section of the show. The Logan Act has only been used twice to indict people throughout U.S. history, and this is a statute that dates back to shortly after the French Revolution. And the reality is neither of those cases resulted in a conviction. The wording of the statute is way too vague. It's probably not enforceable, and I would say give that one up. Okay. I'm going to keep playing this. And if again, I'll talk to you on the other side of each segment. I'm not going to play the whole speech, but I think it's important to talk about this before we turn to Crazy Town. Oops. So I think you know what she said there in terms of what her policy agenda is in terms of ceasefire, returning the hostages home, and removing Hamas from power and allowing Palestinian people to have dignity, rebuilding. And of course, I know she is for a two-state solution. It was incredible to be in that place and in that space to hear that and to hear the crowd roar. The energy was tremendous. Now, before I pivot to Crazy Town, I want to again play for a second. First, when Kamala Harris accepted the nomination, and I'm going to show you, for you a reaction that I had immediately because I wanted to capture this moment in history when it's possible that this will be our first women president of the United States. Now, you know, this is the second time when a major party, and always has been the Democratic Party, has nominated a woman as their presidential candidate. And last time it didn't go so well. And last time the opposing candidate was Donald Trump. This time we will do something. We're going to get out and vote, and we're going to do everything in our power, at least speaking for myself, to help her get elected within reason. I do need to sleep, and within the bounds of the law, of course. So let's listen to her acceptance one more time.
Nation on earth. I accept
and my reaction to that. Okay, I know that's silly, but I was sitting next to Mary, but I didn't want to capture her at that moment because I thought it'd be intrusive, but I wanted you to see how thrilled I was. Now, let us move to Crazy Town. And remember, I'll be back on Monday at the normal time, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. To talk about what happened over the weekend and what we can expect during the week. Oh, shoot. Before I get to Crazy Town, there is one legal development. I'm sure you heard that Jack Smith has said he does not request a public evidentiary hearing in the case involving Donald Trump's interference in the election leading up to the January 6th insurrection. Now, I'm not sure whether it's up to him. I do know the U.S. Supreme Court required in the case finding that there was a broader scope of presidential immunity for criminal acts than we ever knew of. I believe the Supreme Court said that Judge Chutkan had to engage in some kind of fact finding, and she may decide it's going to be an evidentiary hearing, even if Jack Smith does not request it. So keep your eyes on that. Okay, now, it is time for Crazy Town. Okay, Crazy Town is what I expected. And it is Donald Trump losing his mind. And, he always has been unhinged, but I am talking about what went on when Kamala Harris was accepting the nomination. During her speech, and even through the balloon drop, he was repeatedly calling in to Fox News. And apparently there was some point when he was calling in, he must have not been using his AirPods, right? And he must have been like holding the phone to his ear because it was beeping. It was like dialing numbers. And they literally were like, trying to get him off the phone. Like if Hakeem Jeffries the other day said, bro, we broke up with you for a reason. Fox News was like, dude, who this? New phone. Okay, let's listen to this. You're not going to believe it.
Joe Biden in a Democrat primary. I have no doubt about it. And they made it absolutely impossible for him. They made it that you have to get 60, 70% of the vote just to get in. And you know what?
President.
In the end, the Democrats did the same thing to Joe Biden. They threw Joe Biden out of the party.
And that's
they
why
did
we
the
saw a
same
different
thing
night
as they
tonight.
did to RFK.
Mr. President, thank you so
very
much
sir.
for the time. We appreciate that live feedback.
Stay right
Thank
there.
you.
Live edition of Gutfeld is coming up. Thank you so much for joining us from Chicago. It's been a great week.
They bumped Donald Trump for Greg Gutfeld. He is so insignificant to them that they just went right into their programming. They were like, yeah, guy. And by the way, this is a double feature for Crazy Town. I'll play the song again because we got a second dose of Crazy Town, all related to Donald. The other thing is he was, as you know, down at the border speaking, and that was interesting. He looked like he had forgotten while he was in the desert to moisturize, as some people said, before he put on his pancake makeup. And then it was kind of cracking in the sun. And maybe his face is turned into kind of like a desert. And the mirage that he is seeing is the Oval Office, but it's a mirage, Donald. Okay, so he was in Nevada last night doing an event, not at an arena of the size that you saw, but at someone's restaurant? At a restaurant.
And for working families and small businesses like this one, this is not a small business, this is a big business, but we'll call it a small business for tax purposes, okay?
Did you hear how loud that crowd was? It wasn't loud. This was at a restaurant. The next thing you know, he's going to be at open mic at your kid's high school. I mean, what the hell is this? At any rate, did you hear what he said? He's at someone's family business making a joke that they are going to hide their income from the IRS. This is the president of the United States. I mean, former president of the United States, right? Encouraging tax evasion. Plus, let me just play that for you again to hear how quiet the applause was. You would get more cheering if there were a tacky MC at a bar mitzvah than this. Listen to this. Oops, I got to get this back to the beginning, guys. Here we go.
And for working families and small businesses like this one, this is not a small business, this is a big business, but we'll call it a small business for tax purposes, okay?
That laughter? Can I just compare that ha 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 ha, ha laughter to when Kamala Harris accepted the nomination? Let's just play that just for contrast.
Nation on earth. I accept.
Do you hear a difference? Audible difference? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe you can't. Okay. Now, before I get to the second dose of Crazy Town, I am remembering that I promised. Remember that we've got these three things. We've got mobilization, message, and money. And I neglected to share with you our money story. And this is really important. So let me bring the money slide on. Okay, I'm going to share this with you. The money. Show me the money. So during the convention, and money goes to mobilization, it goes to enthusiasm. Let's look at this, and I'm going to bring this up big for you. This is according to Sam Stein. I think he still writes for Politico. Act Blue, this is the platform where a lot of Democratic organizations use for processing payments and donations. Act Blue says $100,859,990, let's just call it almost $101 million, was donated across its platform to Democratic candidates and organizations during the convention. And between 11 p.m. and 12 a.m., okay, so I guess that's right. She must have gotten on stage at 10:31, and then she was giving her a speech in the 10:44. Okay, great. Now the time is right. Okay, so between 11 p.m. and 12 a.m., during and following Harris's acceptance speech, $7.2 million was raised in a single hour, right? But altogether, more than $100 million, right? Okay. And so we're learning a little bit about, let's go back to Crazy Town. You saw Donald Trump losing it. And his losing it gets a little more extreme, you guys, because Donald Trump was losing it and realizing that he did not know how to recalibrate. He did not know, because he can fully see this. Oh, I'm trying to get this on stage here for you. He can see this. He can see the difference between himself and Harris. So this was Donald, and I think I referred this. You can sort of see his face cracking in the sun at his press conference. And then there is Harris. You can see this photograph put together by a New York Times photographer. At the top is Harris behind a lectern accepting the nomination for the Democratic Party for President of the United States. And then there is a photo below of someone who's, meant to look like her with her braids looking up at her. This is unbelievably powerful and poignant. And that was not what was happening for Donald Trump. So you can sort of see why he's getting upset. Again, we're going to get more into Crazy Town when I set the stage for this. There is a realization that this week, maybe for Donald, that he's got to do something. He's admitted that he can't think of any good insults for Kamala Harris. Kamabla, I guess, just didn't stick. Calling her comrade Kamala wasn't working. Pretending not to know how to pronounce her name was getting old. And then meanwhile, you had J.D. Vance, in case you missed it, at a donut shop where people hadn't done any advance work, and the people working at the donut shop did not want to talk to him. And he ordered donuts in a way that made it look like he had never been to a restaurant in his life. He asked the person, can you do some with some, sprinkles? Okay, fine. He didn't even know the names of the kinds of donuts, and maybe a few of those he pointed. And then he said, and whatever else makes sense. Donuts don't make sense. Donuts are in the category of pure, sugary, fried, fatty, yummy indulgence. No one orders a donut because it makes sense, my people. You choose them, maybe some chocolate, some donut holes, maybe some that have jelly in them, maybe a cruller or two. Maybe you want some pumpkin spice flavored. Yes, it's pumpkin spice season. But anyway, who orders a donut and says, please give me a selection that makes sense? Anyhow, he's been embarrassing. And of course, we have his couch story. We could go on and on. We have his thinking that women sustain abusive marriages. Nothing gets better for Donald Trump when it comes to J.D. Vance. So I'm sure you saw just yesterday, RFK Jr. dropped out of the race and endorsed Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, who has not been on the campaign trail with his VP. He has put his VP out into the wilderness to make a fool of himself. Yesterday, Donald Trump brought RFK Jr. on stage with him. Okay, now, I don't know if it was at the Italian restaurant or whatever restaurant that was, but he did bring him on stage at one of his rallies. Okay, and that gets us to RFK Jr. RFK Jr., when he's had a press conference to say he was dropping out. Remember, he has about 5% of the vote, right? Well, he's dropping out because he's really stealing people think he's stealing some of the vote from Donald Trump or from that would go to Donald Trump from independents. But that's not entirely true. There are a lot of people like the Joe Rogan types or others who are supporting RFK because they don't want any kind of standard politician. I think they're going to feel betrayed when they learn that he is now backing Donald Trump, especially Cheryl Hines, his wife's friends in Hollywood, who are the sort of Marianne Williamson type supporters or who believe RFK is a good guy because maybe they're anti-vaxxers and they're not going to be happy. They're not going to follow RFK to Donald Trump. So let's do a little more Crazy Town before we close out. Okay, Crazy Town, part one of the RFK situation.
Now, in an honest system, I believe that I would have won the election. In a system like kind that.
Can we just stop there? Crazy. In an honest system, RFK Jr. thinks he would have won the election. He has 5% of the vote. What kind of Connor Roy arrogance is this? And if you don't know who Connor Roy is, please, you need to watch the entire 4 seasons of Succession. I demand it when you have time. Once you get over the first episode, it's a little weird. You're going to love it all. Anyway, how in the world could he have a brain that is functioning, that has not been entirely devoured by a worm? Could RFK actually say with a straight face that he could have won the election? So that's part of it. Let's get a little more Crazy Town for RFK Jr. Okay, this is not only crazy, this is Creepy Town. So when I saw this is RFK Jr., when I saw this part of his speech where he decided to stand down and throw his support to Donald Trump, I had to say that this was a weirdo alert. Take a listen.
America's puberty rate is now occurring at age 10 to 13, which is 6 years earlier than girls were reaching puberty in 1900.
What the fuck? Excuse me? Weirdo alert. It is creepy for an adult male to be discussing girls' menstruation. That's all I have to say about that, people. And he thinks he could have won the election, and now he has joined Donald Trump's team. Oh, this is going to help them attract more women to their platform. Okay, guys, that's what I have for you for this special episode of Weekend Jen. If you like me adding this to the lineup, I will create a new little logo that says Weekend Jen, and we will do this every Saturday at 4 p.m. So please let me know over on YouTube in the chat. And if you want to be added as a moderator and get that little wrench identifier for the show, please do that. Let me know. And please subscribe. It's free to Morning Jen. It helps me find more people and make sure that you do not ever miss any episode. That's all I got for you. I will see you on Monday morning.